This is the ISG Digital Dish.
Welcome to the Digital Dish,
a podcast for women's voices and perspectives in the digital world. I'm Lois.
I'm Missy.
And I'm Jeannie. And we want to make sure smart women and their points of view were being heard. Welcome back, everybody. I will say Missy is going gangbusters on interviewing a ton of people. So we're really excited. There's a whole lot of interviews coming up. Actually, one's coming out this week, and that is diversity in AI. So that's already coming out. So this is the next one. So Missy has a friend who she met at a conference, Dr. Rebecca Harvey. I'll tell you, she hit all the buttons that I really enjoy. You know, she talks about women in STEM. She talks about modality, meditation, taking time. You know more than you think you know. Middle school girls. I mean, hello, checklist for Jeannie. There it is.
Well, I'm excited to listen to it. So I guess we should, since we've revved this up, we should get right to the interview.
We should. Okay. Enjoy, everybody.
Hi, Missy Lawrence here. I am super stoked today. Without any further ado, why don't you just introduce yourself and let our listeners know what you're all about?
Hi, I'm so excited to be here too. I am Dr. Rebecca Harvey. I'm a psychologist, coach. I am an author and a corporate speaker. So I go around spreading the news of health and wellness and how to be your best self in the world amidst all the difficulties we endure in life.
Who are some of your clients? Well, I don't know if you can share, but what types of maybe clients or industries do you support or work with?
Yeah, vast array. I have special interest groups I do. In fact, right now I'm doing a lot of stuff with attorneys and wellness because they have such a high depression, addiction, and suicide rate. So I'm doing some specialized work with different attorney groups. But I also work with Fortune 5 companies, doing wellness endeavors with them, various things throughout the year and in their conferences. So I was actually speaking with your producer before the show about how recently I was speaking to the subject of women in the workforce in STEM careers. So I thought, like, what a cool conversation. So, you know, a vast array of different things I do. I kind of just follow my interests. So if a corporation comes to me, we kind of brainstorm what they're interested in and what I think would be cool. And then they give me a lot of liberties in coming up with subject matter.
I'm curious, what insights did you have? Because, you know, I love how your big brain works, but anything like going into it, you probably had some preparation. Was there anything shocking or different or confirming? Like, what should we be thinking about as women in technology?
You know, what I loved about this is that this was a new modality. And normally I would go in and I would speak like a presenter. And this time I did a hybrid thing. So I was a presenter. And then I also had this panel of women who had built successful careers in finance in this case. And so they were there able to answer questions that I had about their experience coming up in the industry. And they were all different generations. So they were able to speak to how things have evolved, which was just such a cool conversation. So we had it was actually my first live event since the pandemic, which was so freeing and liberating and amazing. It's so much better when you can get feedback from the audience. So we had an audience and I expected that it would be predominantly women, even though there are not that many women typically at the Deloitte conference, this particular one, but there were quite a few and there were about 25% men in the audience, which was phenomenal. Mm-hmm. So it was really cool because they were able to speak to the women in the audience and the men in the audience who were either women coming up in the industry, a lot of them. And a lot of the men were the decision makers of companies. And so it was a really great opportunity for them to hear how powerful it is to have brilliant women in your company, because companies that are run by women are shown to be more profitable. And yet it takes 30% longer to put the woman at the helm of a company. It's really ridiculous. So, you know, when I was prepping to do that, to answer your question, the thing that stood out to me the most was the research that I found in regard to the specific rates at which men and women are hired into companies. And then how at middle management level, when people would be promoting into middle management, we see this massive reduction in women. And it's, you know, it's like all these questions start to arise. And so there's been all this research done on, are they less ambitious? Are we less ambitious as women? Are we less intelligent? Are we less capable? Are we less talented? And the answer is no. Equally talented, equally ambitious, everything. But we actually, as women, show an attrition rate in ambition. And so that's what they account this to, is that there's this attrition rate. That piqued my interest. And that's sort of how then I like built this conversation around that attrition rate. The cool thing about it, or not cool thing, but the interesting thing rather about it, is that this attrition rate is not just true for women in STEM. It's not just true for women pursuing career. It's actually a phenomenon that we see in middle school girls in various pursuits and endeavors. So what that says then is that there's something built into the fabric of our society and our beliefs about girls and women that causes women to start to pursue something and then to suddenly drop back. And so I wanted to explore that and open that basically.
There's another theory that is so interesting that you're hitting on, and we brought it up in a prior episode around how to start like a women in digital career or women in tech, a network resource group or some sort of internal group. And if you are equally yoked, with your peers, male, female, whomever, coming into the workforce, you likely are having the same opportunities, right? If you are still, with you have the skill set, the experience, the education, the creativity, the ambition. By the time you get to middle management, it's baby making time for most women. Or as you pursue into executive, then we've got menopause. I'm speaking for myself, right? We've got all kinds of things that happen to us. So I think, just knowing what you study and how your brain processes and thinks through things a little bit, because the part for us in the digital dish, we're within ISG's Women in Digital group, where we intentionally focus on bringing people up and giving them a platform, and the people who are already successful, giving them the stage to be able to share that. So it's kind of like this cycle of reaching out across multi-generations. But what you hit is very interesting, because it really does start when you are a child and you're forming, and do you want to be in sales or in IT or in tech or whatever it is. And so this seems to be an ongoing thread this year in our theme. And so you picked up on something with middle school, and I'm also wondering if that goes back to biological, anatomical, hormonal things where it's like, I just can't add another thing right now because I've got all these stuff that's changing and happening in my body. I don't know. That's just where my brain went.
Sure.
We're women, so we're predisposed to women things, but then the fallout of that, I could be going way down a rabbit trail, but I just think it's really, really cool.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's like, it's a multivariable factor, right? That factors that are going into this, but it's undeniable also that girls are given different messages. I mean, you even think about, a little girl falls down and the general public is, oh, you poor thing. And she gets to emote, and a boy falls down and it's like, you're tough, rub some dirt on it. You could, you know what I mean? Like there's not that space that's created. And so from a really early age, we see, in fact, mothers speak more to female infants than to male infants. And I'm not even sure what the percentage rate is, but it's something pretty significant. So there's all these ways that there's like these different ways we unconsciously treat, male versus female, and, just to keep it on that base level, right? Not even bringing, non-binary, but that extrapolates out into so many different realms. And so the point you made is like, there's so many things that women are juggling. And also I was talking to your producer about this before the show. Is like, right. So why is it though that that's falling on women? Okay, are we better at it? We are definitely wired mentally more for multitasking, but why is that? Right? How has our brain evolutionarily come to do that?
Don't get on my soapbox on like the myth of multitasking, but being able to pivot faster.
Yes.
And take stuff off of our PFC, off the stage.
Sure.
Being a bit more sophisticated.
Yes.
In that regard. I think we are, but
well, we actually literally are anatomically. I mean, our corpus callosum, the bundle of fibers that collects right to left hemisphere, for women, it is a 4-lane freeway system. There is information going back and forth, back and forth. For men, it's a 2-lane road. It's like one direction or the other. So that's why as women, when we get together, we have conversations that are like, no way that happened. You must feel so sad. Oh my gosh, what are you going to do? You know what you should do? X, Y, Z. But really, you've got to be so bummed. Like we're just flip-flopping between this like emotional, cognitive. Men cannot do that. So when a woman speaks to a man, he either seems cold and indifferent because he's logicking, or he seems, like he doesn't care on the other end because he's not emoting. But it's actually that their brain cannot flip scripts so quickly to be in those two different arenas. So we are in fact wired for it. And yet, there is a myth going on that we should be able to balance it all perfectly.
Yes.
And that puts this pressure on women to feel like then we must make a decision, because we certainly, if we can't do it perfectly, and let's be honest, who can? If we can't do it perfectly, then we're failing. We're failing. So we should give something up.
So that's stress. All I hear is stress, 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 stress.
Yes.
And it's wired. There's no malintent on big bad men doing stuff to women. Hardwired, predispositioned for life. And so what do? We're women sitting as minorities in rooms of men and trying to relate and connect. And so there's that stress on one hand of just the work itself. But then there's just in general, everyone I think is still stressed with the fallout of the pandemic and what I call like this zeitgeist. Now what do we do? How do we stay mindful? How do we stay grounded? How does something like meditation come in and help us, all of us, men, women, anyone, be better humans?
Well, yeah, I'm glad you asked, because I'm such a big pusher of meditation and mindfulness in general. Meditation does all sorts of phenomenal things for the mind, for the body, spiritually, if that's your jam, lots of really great things. But the biggest factor is the capacity to be mindful, to be able to pull back from being the thinker of your thoughts and the doer of your actions, and actually be able to be the observer of the thinker of the thoughts and the observer of the doer of the actions. And that skill set alone allows phenomenal capacity to follow in regard to emotional regulation, pulling back and getting perspective on value. And value is a big manager of stress. If we can tune into what is valuable to us about why we are doing what we do.
Right.
Like, we don't do anything stressful. Nothing causes us stress, or we don't do anything stressful that's not important to us. We just wouldn't do it. So when we can identify the importance factor, the value piece, and we can tune into that and then do something in line with our value, something changes actually physiologically in our body about how our body responds to stress. So we hear all these things like adrenaline and cortisol and but actually, if you tune into the value piece and you let that be the driver of your focus of why you're stressed, your body releases a chemical called DHEA, which combats stress, but simultaneously it strengthens your brain and strengthens your heart. So in that moment, stress actually does a good thing for your body. So this myth we have that stress is only distress is not actually true. There's actually eustress. Yeah.
I've seen DHEA like at vitamin shop.
Yes.
So we just be handing out DHEA to women in digital, women in tech, like making it rain.
Right. Just peddling, be a DHEA pusher.
We will. I think there's just so much going on, and that will continue to go on. I've said gone are the days of things like change fatigue. Everyone has to be change savvy and change able and looking for continuous improvement, adaptability. And I'm just hoping that maybe in your brilliant mind, maybe there's another book that even comes out of this. Da-da-da.
I think the biggest deterrent in people doing meditation is the idea that they can't. Like, there's something uniquely wrong with their brain that they can't do it. And so my favorite message for people in regard to meditation is your brain is evolutionarily designed to keep you safe. So your brain is constantly looking for, like, predicting issues, like problems, to make a plan to protect you. There's your alliteration. So predicting problems to make a plan for protection, right? That is the function of your brain. So left to its own devices, that is what it will constantly be doing. Everybody's brain is the same. The only reason why those of you who think you suck at meditation suck at it is because you haven't trained your brain to do something different. Just like if you have ever played an instrument or a sport or learned any other skill, you start off somewhere and you keep practicing at it. So that's the biggest message I would say is like, yes, your brain does not do it, but keep practicing anyway, and you will get better at it. The easiest, simplest way to develop a meditation practice is to observe your breath. It's always with you. It's doing different things all the time, but maybe you don't know that if you're not paying attention to it. There's so much information, valuable information in looking at what your breath is doing. And so observing your breath is something you can do. You can count it. You can just notice where you feel it in your body as you breathe. Just take a big breath, let it out. The big key, I would say, there we go. The big key is to focus on bringing it into a diaphragmatic breath, allowing the breath to be both in your chest and in your belly, because I've watched so many people tell me they struggle with anxiety, and then they assert that they're deep breathing, but then I watch them take this big chest inhalation, their shoulders rise up to their ears, and they're like, see, but like somehow it's not working. That upward breath creates more anxiety, tells your body it's go time, switches you into a sympathetic state. So really finding that, like, even in free breath where you're pulling it into your diaphragm, allows you to switch over into your parasympathetic nervous system, slow your brain down so your thoughts aren't ping-ponging around. And there you are. You're just focus on your breath, focus on bringing it into your belly. Now you're focused on one anchored into one single thought. When you focus on one single thought to the exclusion of everything else, you are in a mindful state. Your grocery list will pop up. Your judgment about thinking you're doing it wrong will pop up. Your feelings about hating doing this thing because you suck at it and it's a waste of your time anyway will pop up. All the things that happened earlier in the day, all the things you have yet to do, all of that will come, and you will simply notice it, acknowledge that it has shown up, let it go by bringing your focus back to your breath. And as soon as you have noticed that you have been interrupted by this thought, you are mindful again. That simple act of noticing that your attention was interrupted is mindfulness. So it's actually not so complicated.
And I can give myself a thumbs up and say, good job, Missy. I feel like I'm not meditating because I'm thinking about all of these other things.
Yeah.
That I'm acknowledging and I'm observing that I am thinking about those things, and then I let them go and I keep breathing.
Absolutely. You know what, Missy? Even if you dedicated, let's say 15 minutes, I don't like to overload people, but like the research is based on 30 to 45 minutes, but like, let's start small, right? Let's start small. So even if you spent the 5 or 15 or 2 hours, whatever it was, literally fighting your brain to stay present and feeling like you lost every single time, you're still in a meditation practice, the practice of staying dedicated to building this skill. So that is a successful meditation, even if you're not finding those big open spaces where your mind is calm and still and not thinking thoughts, if you will. All of it is a success.
This is so helpful for me personally, and I'm sure it will be for all of our listeners. I've been going to like apps and stuff, but is there a way like that if I don't go to the app or something, so I'm just going to sit and I'm going to listen to my breath and see what happens and maybe set a timer. I'm always like, what else do I need? Don't I need to like light candles and get incense and like, I don't know, set up flowers and create an altar like to meditate? Or can I do it on a plane because I'm always traveling, or in a hotel room?
That is the beauty, actually. That's the beauty of a breath meditation, is that your breath is always with you. So you really can do this anywhere. And I actually do meditate on the plane often because it's a great way to just stay calm when you're stuck sitting in one spot. But if you create a space in your home that you will see often, it will remind you to meditate when you see it, right? So a nice cushion, a candle, whatever, and playing music or lighting a candle, something like that is nice because they are sensory experiences and our senses bring us into the present moment. But what I will say is that if you are going to do that, I would not pick a song with lyrics, because it's next to impossible to meditate when you're hearing lyrics. It catches your attention. You can do your meditation anywhere, anytime. In fact, I have clients that I ask to do stoplight meditation. When they're sitting at a stoplight, they just focus mindfully on their breath, eyes open, focus on their breath. Great, time to fit it in. I have a client who does seatbelt meditation. Every time she buckles her seatbelt, she stops and she counts 10 slow and even breaths. That is even a mindfulness, it's like a prep for longer meditation. The beauty of this is, again, the more you do it, the easier it becomes. The more facility you have with it, the longer periods you'll be able to meditate, and the more success you'll have with getting into a quieted mind at a faster.
I cannot thank you enough. I just feel so enlightened, and I should maybe send you your fee for this session because I feel like I've had a session on your couch. So thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. My pleasure.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Rebecca Harvey, everyone. And we look forward to practicing and maybe sharing. We'll stay in touch and contact social media, how we're doing, how helpful this was. And just thank you so much. Can't thank you enough.
All right. Welcome back, everybody.
Oh, yes. That was Missy. You did such a fantastic job on this interview. I learned so, actually, not only did I learn so much, but as I was listening, actually light bulbs would go off as like, oh, that's why I feel the way I feel, or that makes sense, almost more than I've had in a long time. It just resonated so much to what I'm doing every day.
Oh, absolutely. And honestly, she just talks about all the things that like totally bing, 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 bing for me, women in STEM, getting men in the audience, how men are becoming really active and involved in this whole thing, which was really, really great to hear. So I loved hearing that. But she also talked about attrition rates and middle school girls needing to get into STEM, all the things that, just like go for me, they're all ringing my bells there. So.
Well, what I, and maybe this is more of the subtle, things that I was taking from it, but it makes you know, why am I more comfortable when there's more women around the table in conversation than sometimes I feel when there's more men around the table? I mean, something just around, just the linkages of your brain and what you're often thinking, and why we tend to get more, use both sides of our brain while we're having a conversation, because it's just something that we can quickly do. Because sometimes, you just feel like, from a self-confidence perspective, why does it feel like I'm not relating well to my colleagues? But there's a reason. There's actually a physical reason for it. And you just got to step back and think, okay, why is it that, I tend to want to talk about things in this way, whereas my male counterparts want to talk about things in the other way? So anyway, I thought that was really insightful. And then to learn how to manage your stress through meditation. Oh my gosh, what a great discussion.
Absolutely. So first of all, back to your first point on this, I think she said, or somebody said, to love where your brain goes, and that we know more than we think. And I just think that's like that's now my mantra now. Love where your brain goes. We know more than we think. And then we can breathe.
Absolutely. And another one that she had that I wrote down, emotional. Oh, no, was it not emotional regulation? Maybe it was emotional regulation. It's like we have control.
Yes.
We can actually control what our emotions are. We have the tools built already within us. It's just a matter of knowing how to tap onto them.
Yep.
Right? And being able to manage that. And it gives you that sense of control, and like you're just not stressed out, crazy, but how do you kind of get that back into center?
Yeah.
I thought was really good.
For sure. Tapping into your intuition, and then knowing that we have our, just keeping it simple, amygdala, I like to think of as your thumb that likes to freak out. And then we have our prefrontal cortex. It's just your fingers over top of your thumb that you don't have to freak out. Like, we can actually regulate and take a second and breathe and then regroup and think about things a bit more objectively.
She also talks about the capacity for mindfulness, how we all have it, and the value in meditation. I really thought that was important to think about. And predicting, I wrote this down because, I'm on fire when she started talking about, is predicting problems to protect your brains. That's what meditation does. She said that, right? That's a direct quote?
Well, not what meditation does, what your brain naturally is designed to do. When we make judgments and we have our biases, our brain is doing what it's trained to do to keep us safe. Mm-hmm. It's like, I see this coming. I'm making a prediction. This is going to be a problem. So I need to act in a different way. And meditation helps you kind of calm down and say, is this a threat? Because your brain's just doing what it was designed to do. Back when we probably had saber-toothed tigers running after us. We have to act really quickly, but I don't think any tigers are coming, but it might feel like a tiger in a stressful environment, a room full of men. They're slower tigers. And you got to just calm down and recenter, tell Tell that thumb, you don't need to freak out. These tigers aren't trying to get you. Like, calm down. Yeah.
I'm doing the hand thing with Missy, even though I have short, stubby fingernails. I'm like, yes, okay, Missy, I got this. Okay, I'm gonna have to get a picture of that later.
Yeah, but the discussion on how to be mindful, some of the tools to make it just to think about one thing, like focus on one thing. How often during the day are we just trying to do so many things, and the peacefulness, and frankly, I think we're so scared to just focus on one thing because, oh my God, I have so many things to do. But if you just focus on that one thing and calm yourself down, even if it's a work thing, I find, even if it's a work thing, it's a comforting feeling, because not only do you get to check that off, but you did kind of just controlled yourself down. You became, just like, okay, now let me just go to the next thing. And then I can go to the next thing. You feel like you've gotten yourself back into control. So I thought that was really useful. Just something that we can use every day.
Mm-hmm. The myth of the multitask. It's like just one thing at a time. And then it's there. You can get back to it.
Yeah.
I love that.
Good.
Well, I don't know what else to say, except I think don't we have something else that we're planning in the future around metaverse? So I'm kind of excited for that in the future. Is that our next one, Jeannie? What's the next topic?
I can't. We've been interviewing so many people. Missy has brought so much great energy to this podcast. So I know we have Emma Roloff, and we've got Jennifer Galvin from OutSystems coming up. And we have so many great interviews. We just trying to get out of the summer mode, get back into the digital dish train. And with Missy, it is a train. It's a high speed train. It's the bullet train. She's the movie. She's the bullet train, and I'm just trying to keep up. I'm not even an assassin. I'm just trying to help organize it. Okay, here are the wheels. Here's the driver. Let's go.
Well, I'm looking forward to the fall with you guys, because it's going to be a jam-packed fall. So I'm looking forward to our upcoming season.
And we have the Women in Digital Awards coming up as well, right?
Absolutely, we do. And we have our finalists, and the judges are meeting literally this week. And so we will have that announcement coming out soon. So it's very exciting.
Very exciting. All right, you guys. Thank you. Talk to you soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us on ISG Digital Dish. If you like our podcast, subscribe and please rate and review us. Thanks.